there is a new conversation going on in sales everywhere. And there's a webcam smack dab in the middle of it. 90% of all B2B sales are happening virtually. 86% of sellers say they prefer working from home even for less money. What that means is everything we've been thinking about, planning for, dreaming about has shifted. And there's only one thing left to do, and that is to adapt. Now, adaptation really isn't anything new. I mean, if you think about it, animals and people have been adapting since the beginning of the time. We all studied Charles Darwin in school. Remember? Survival of the fittest. We need to adapt in order to survive and thrive. Well, just for fun, let's take a look at a couple of animals and how they've had to adapt in order to survive and thrive. I like to start with the alligator. A lot of people don't know that the alligator adapted from an animal called Dinosuchus. In fact, the adaptation was it got thicker skin to ward off predators and competitors. Now, let's take a look at another animal, the elephant. It adapted from the woolly mammoth. And as you can see, in order to find water, the woolly mammoth needed to get bigger ears so it could listen better. That was its adaptation for survival. Now for my favorite animal, penguins, particularly Arctic penguins. Arctic penguins learned early on that the only way they could withstand sub-zero temperatures, 50, 70 degrees below, was to huddle close. In fact, it was teamwork that helped them to adapt. A little known fact, or maybe you saw the Disney movie, but penguins, male penguins, actually sit on the egg while the female penguins forage for food. Kind of a good job if you can get it, right? Like, just all I got to do is sit on an egg and somebody else forages for food. Another thing we can learn from penguins, most of them mate for life. Can you imagine? Mating for life. So adaptation isn't anything new, and in fact, it's necessary. Now, let's take a look at how another animal has adapted. The modern day buyer. Well, the modern day buyer has adapted quite a bit. In fact, Gartner just released some new statistics that I'm going to share with you about how our modern day buyer consumer has adapted. Let's go ahead and take a look. Now, we all know that it's not like it used to be. Customers have access to all of the information they need online. In fact, according to Gartner, customers are now 62% through the buying process by the time they talk to us. It used to be we were the purveyors of information. If a customer wanted information, they had to come to us, or they could talk to their Uncle Nick, who's in the same business. But now, customers are forming their own opinions, their own agendas, and their own criteria without you and me. That's right, 62%. Now, this is a whopper. And if we were together, I would want a drum roll here. So go ahead and just for fun, humor me. I need a drum roll from wherever you are, not if you're driving, please. Hopefully you're not driving. But it used to be that we had to convince 3 stakeholders, then 5.8 stakeholders. Just for fun, I'd love you to write in the chat right now, how many average stakeholders are there in a B2B sale today? Okay, so let's go ahead, and Donna's going to monitor the chat for me. And I want to see.
We got 89.
Oh, 89.
As a guess.
You know, I think I'd quit if there were 89. Oh, my goodness.
7.6.
And I guess it depends on the industry, right? Oh, look at them coming in. You guys are fast this morning, very caffeinated. I see that. Okay. Or I guess it's evening for some of you.
20 is a guess.
5. Oh, my goodness.
12 to 15.
Well, I'm going to say everybody's a winner here because the answer is, da-da, da-da, There are 11, oops, I've gotten ahead of myself here, 11 average stakeholders in a B2B sale. Now, of course, what that means when there's 11 average stakeholders is that we've got, once you have that many stakeholders, you're going to have a negative Nelly. You're going to have a glum. What I mean by that, when I was a little girl, there was a cartoon I used to love to watch called Gulliver's Travels. And in this cartoon, everybody was regular size, but Glum was 3 inches tall. And if you happen to remember back to this, no matter what the idea, no matter what the plan, no matter what the adventure, Glum had one reply: "It'll never work. We'll never get out of here." Here's the challenge. When you've got 11 stakeholders, one of them is gonna be a glum. There's a glum among us. So it's not just selling to the CFO, the CSO, the CIO. Now you've got a CGO, or a chief glum officer, telling you it'll never work. So 11 stakeholders, a glum among us. Now here's another one, 17%. Gartner tells us customers spend only 17%, again, talking to a salesperson. Now, here's the challenge. That's talking to a salesperson, not necessarily us. That means we only get a fraction of time to actually talk to our customers. We've got to make it count. Now, add to that, we all know about information overload. We talked about that a couple of years ago, that we've created as much content in the last few years than in all of humankind. Your customers, our customers, are not only overloaded with information, here's what's new. According to Gartner, much of that well-sourced information is contradictory. So while customers are taking in all of this information, and by the way, the equivalent of 175 newspapers worth of content per day, the messaging they're getting, the information they're getting, the websites they're going to, the white papers, it's well sourced, but it's conflicting. And as we know, a buyer would rather make no decision than make the wrong decision. And that's why our number one competitor today is the status quo. So let's take a look at how this next animal has adapted. We'll call this next animal the modern day seller. And in order to get to that, I need one more chat here. Gallup tells us who the second least trusted of all professionals is. I want to hear in the chat, who do you think right now, today, is the second least trusted of all professionals, according to public opinion? Let's go ahead and put that in the chat now.
Oh, Annalise responded immediately with sales.
Oh dear.
We've got politicians, we've
Oh,
got
lawyer.
lawyers, Congress, salespeople. Lawyers are being popular there. The media.
The media, yeah.
Politicians.
I guess the point, Donna, is really whether it's lawyers, politicians, or salespeople, what we do know for sure is that Gallup says it's salespeople, but what this means is, as a society, globally, we are in an age of lack of trust. So not only do we have this high information in our consumers, we've got low trust.